بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على رسوله الكريم وبعد. If I can please request that we keep the volume down, inshallah, like we did yesterday. Jazakumullah khair. Finishing off our topic today of bad companionship, inshallah, I'd like to first mention that a bad friend, like the example that we heard yesterday, is the one who will buy the material world and forsake the next world while trying to lead you down the same exact path. He will question you about your deen, your faith, your belief in the day of judgment until he can stir you away from your aqidah and your belief. As yesterday we mentioned that the friend, he will say to his friend, أَإِذَا مِتْنَا وَكُنَّا تُرَابًا وَعِظَامًا أَإِنَّا لَمَدِينُونَ, that when we are dirt and we are dust and we are bones, will God really judge us? And that person, he'll see his friend on the day of judgment in the fire, and he will say that if it wasn't for the blessing of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, I would have been in the same exact position that you were in. But as we as Muslims know, a man and a woman without belief, without iman, is a man of no value to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. For a man and woman's belief is the greatest treasure that he holds or she holds. In Arabic we say, وَكُلُّ كَسْرٍ فَإِنَّ الدِّينَ يَجْبُرُهُ وَمَا لِكَسْرِ قَنَاةِ الدِّينِ جُبْرَانُ. That everything that is broken, every single cut, every single scrap, every single broken thing, the deen, it can fix it. The religion, it can fix it. But if the channel of the religion is broken itself, then nothing can fix it. And so, literally, for the sake of La ilaha illallah Muhammadur Rasulullah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He sent down His prophets, He sent down His books, and much blood was spilled throughout the centuries in defense of this divine covenant of La ilaha illallah, in defense of the religion that you and me practice. And all of it can go away if you have just one bad friend. For a bad companion, he shakes the kalima from your heart and he makes you doubt your practices. Yesterday we mentioned the story of the two friends, and inshallah today we'll mention a story from the seerah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. But before we mention that story, we should look and see one of the ayahs of Quran in which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَدُّوا لَوْ تَكْفُرُونَ كَمَا كَفَرُوا فَتَكُونُونَ سَوَاءً. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He says that a group of people, they will reject iman, they will reject faith themselves, and they will want you to reject it as well, and so that you and them can become equal. And so a lot of times when we look at things, a disbeliever, whenever he's with a believer, he questions the believer's faith. Just like an atheist, if you look at atheists, they don't believe in Allah, they don't believe in God, but yet they always attack the believers of faith because they don't want them to believe, they want them to be equal. And just like a sinner, whenever he sits with decent people, he wants to include them in his sinning. And so this incident in the seerah of the Prophet ﷺ, it shows us the danger of a bad person. It shows us the danger of bad companionship, and that bad companionship becomes the reason you become punished in this world, and you also become punished in the next world. The hadith, it is about none other than the uncle of the Prophet ﷺ, in which the Prophet ﷺ, he came to his uncle Abu Talib لما حضرت الوفاة, لما حضرت أبو طالب الوفاة, when the time of Abu Talib's death came, the Prophet ﷺ went to him. And what did he find by Abu Talib? He found none other than Abu Talib's friends with him. He found Abu Jahl, and he found Abdullah ibn Umayyah ibn al-Mughira. As for Abu Jahl, he died a kafir. As for Abdullah ibn Umayyah ibn al-Mughira, he became a Muslim in the 8th year of Islam. And there at that moment, at the death of Abu Talib, the Prophet ﷺ, he says, Ya Am, oh my uncle, قُلْ لَا إِلَهَ إِلَّا اللَّهِ. Just say La ilaha illallah. You don't have to do anything else. كَلِمَةً أَشْهَدُ لَكَ بِهَا عِنْدَ اللَّهِ. That I will bear witness with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that you said it. That's all you have to do. Everything else, you didn't do anything else, just say La ilaha illallah and I'll guarantee you Jannah right there. Imagine the position that Abu Talib is in. but he has two bad friends, Abu Jahl and at that time Abdullah ibn Abi Umayyah, who are saying, Ya Abu Talib, atarghabu an millati Abdul Muttalib? Do you really want to leave the way of your forefathers? Do you really choose something else? Are you really disinterested in what we have to say? And so Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, فَلَمْ يَزَلْ رَسُولُ اللَّهِ sallallahu alayhi wa sallam يَعْرِضُهَا عَلَيْهِ. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam kept saying, La ilaha illallah, La ilaha illallah, La ilaha illallah. Kept saying, Abu Talib, say it, just say it one time. And what did they kept saying? وَيَعُودَانِ بِتِلْكَ الْمَقَالَةِ. They would keep saying that, are you really going to leave the religion of your forefathers for all of this? And they kept saying that. حتى قال أبو طالب آخر ما كلمهم هو على ملة عبد المطلب. The father, Sa'id ibn Musayyib, he said that the last thing that Abu Talib said was that I am on the way of my forefathers. And the Prophet ﷺ said that I would have continued to seek forgiveness for him, but if it wasn't for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala forbidding me, and that's the reason why I stopped, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed the verses, مَا كَانَ لِلنَّبِيِّ وَالَّذِينَ آمَنُوا أَن يَسْتَغْفِرُوا لِلْمُشْرِكِينَ وَلَوْ كَانُوا أولي قربى من بعد ما تبين لهم أنهم أصحاب الجحيم. It is not befitting for the messenger of God, nor those who believe, to seek forgiveness for those that disbelieve, even if they are from their families, after Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made it clear that they will go to the fire. Imagine the state. And now here are the benefits that we can take out of this incident. Why did Abu Talib lose Jannah and enter the fire? Because he chose bad companionship. And even greater than that, the effect of bad companions upon him was greater than the effect of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam upon him. And this shows us something, that no matter how good you think you are, if you even for a moment say that I can handle being with bad companions, you're deceiving yourself. And then the second harm is that many people will say that, well, I can sit with the sinners and with the atheists and with the adulterers, and I won't do any of those sins, and I won't disbelieve. But what you will lose is the height of your iman, and you will lose the intensity of your ta'ah. That's number two. The third harm is that when you sit with people that are greater sinners than you, and you sit with people that are bad companionship, then you in your mind start thinking, well, my sins aren't that big. It's okay, I can be as I am. Now look at the example. The unsuccessful man, he doesn't become successful by following the example of those who are less than him and saying, at least I'm better off, right? But instead he looks to the people that are better than him so he can aspire to that level. In the same exact way, a sinner doesn't become a better person by saying, well, I'm not as bad as that person. He only becomes better when he allows himself to recognize how good companions are. And this is why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, اتَّقُوا اللَّهَ وَكُونُوا مَعَ الصَّادِقِينَ. That if you want to accompany somebody, accompany Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If you want to be conscious of somebody, be conscious of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But if you can't do that, if you're not perfect in that, وَكُونُوا مَعَ الصَّادِقِينَ. Be at least with the righteous people that have Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in mind. And the last harm is that the gatherings of bad companions, there is no mention of Allah, similar to the gatherings of hypocrites, the munafiqeen. And in fact, when you bring up the deen and you bring up Allah and you tell them this is haram or this is halal, or you tell them let's make sure that we say, istighfar at the end of the gathering or something, they'll tell you, man, why are you becoming so religious on us? In fact, the Prophet ﷺ, he told us in a hadith, مَا جَلَسَ قَوْمٌ مَجْلِسًا لَمْ يَذْكُرُوا اللَّهَ فِيهِ وَلَمْ يُصَلُّوا عَلَى نَبِيهِمْ إِلَّا كَانَ عَلَيْهِمْ تِرَةٌ فَإِنْ شَاءَ عَذَّبَهُمْ وَإِنْ شَاءَ غَفَرَ لَهُمْ. That there is no gathering, that in that gathering if Allah is not mentioned, if Rasulullah ﷺ's salawat is not mentioned, that gathering will become a gathering in which everybody will leave with tirah. Tirah is the vengeance of Allah, but other scholars, they translate it as hasarat. You will regret that gathering when you are on the day of judgment, and on that day Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will either punish you because you forgot Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in that gathering, or Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala might forgive you. And so us as Muslims, remember that when you are with bad companionship, they can take you away from your belief. When you are with bad companionship, it can make you deceive yourself and think that, oh, well, at least I'm somewhat good. And when you are with bad companionship, it can cause you to forget Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in His messenger. So remember, who you sit with today, its effects will follow you into the next life tomorrow. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant us righteous companionship, and may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala keep us away from bad companionship. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك نشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت نستغفرك ونتوب إليك.